see it's in two places. Number 22. That's my part of the street.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's right.
Once again, I wish the resolutions were clear. I know we're pointing them out now, but what exactly is this whole thing about?
The Village of Garden City owns what is commonly referred to as the Cherry Valley Parking Field, or Cherry Valley Ball Fields. They are desirous of selling those fields. We currently lease them on a year-to-year basis from the Village of Garden City, and we're now going to purchase them. This resolution is an environmental resolution saying that the purchase by the town from the village does not negatively impact the environment.
Any significant tax increase due to this?
If we've done a calculation, it's about
$19.40 per house.
and change per household for a period of,
20 years, is it? 20 years.
for a period of 20 years. Please call the next public hearing.
Proposed increase and improvement of facilities of the Franklin Square Park District by acquisition of real property fronting on Cherry Valley Avenue in Garden City.
Bill Furcacci. Good morning.
Good morning. Felix Furcacci, 1165 Bond Street, Franklin Square. First, what notifications have sent to the residents regarding this renovation and property purchase for Franklin Square residents?
There was a public notice published for this hearing in Newsday and in the local Franklin Square Bulletin, Franklin Square papers. Number two, there's a meeting with the Garden City South Little League where we apprised them of the proposal.
Okay.
I gladly move that the public hearing be closed and that the town of Hempstead acquire the ball fields from the Village of Garden City. And I want to thank you on behalf of the residents of Garden City South for all you've done.
Supervisor Murray. Councilman Ambrosino. Councilwoman Cullen. Councilman Darcy. Councilwoman Boothby. Councilman Santino.
All right, unanimously voted. I think it's a great improvement for the Franklin Square Park District. The Little Leagues there have been playing there since the 50s, and in short order we'll be able to close on that piece of property, and that'll be ours forever, and it'll be a permanent benefit for the residents and the children of Franklin Square. Please call the next.
Resolution is as follows. Resolution holding a public hearing for the financing through the issuance of serial bonds for Sanitary District Number 6 to purchase and make improvements to vacant land at Section 33, Block E, Lot P0114, West Hampstead. This will be item 43 on the administrative calendar.
Thank you. And do any of the council members wish to sever any of the items on the administrative calendar? If not, may I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Supervisor, I will move the administrative calendar in its entirety, items number 1 to 43.
Second motion. And Mr. Furcacci? Good morning.
Felix Furcacci, 1165 Bond Street, Franklin Square, New York.
Thank you.
Just those last three items that were mentioned, can someone give just a brief summary of each of them?
Sure. Town Attorney, go.
And then the third one is Sanitary District 6, which is a commissioner-run district where the town of Hempstead is purchasing a parking lot across the street from its premises for $1.4 million, and there's some other associated repairs that need to be done in the amount of another $400,000. So this is serial bonds in the amount of $1.8 million that the town of Hempstead issues on behalf of District 6. That District 6 pays for. This does not come out of the town of Hempstead funds at all. It comes directly from District 6, who pays the town of Hempstead for this.
What's the purpose of this?
To purchase vacant land and make some improvements thereon.
Yeah, but, yeah, what's the purpose of purchasing the land?
It's going to be used as a parking lot.
Parking lot
It's
for
currently owned by-
garbage trucks?
Excuse me?
Parking lot for garbage trucks?
No, parking lot for the workers. It's currently used as such, but there's a lease with the Village of Garden City. The town of Hempstead is purchasing the ball fields that are adjacent to it, and District 6 is purchasing the parking lot.
Okay.
Proposed issuance of zero bonds to finance Sanitary District number 6 to purchase and make improvements to vacant land in West Hempstead.
I have questions regarding this. When did the Village of Garden City first approach Sanitary District 6 or the town of Hempstead in regard to the sale of the property?
Are you talking about the parking lot?
The parking lot.
Well, they approached the town of Hempstead first for the purchase of the ball fields and indicated to us that they were also going to sell the parking lot and that they were going to approach Sanitary 6 at the same time. So I would guess it was probably in March, April, May, somewhere around.
Yeah, when the ball field thing went through, the ball field bond referendum, that wasn't a referendum, but when the ball field bonds were sold around that time.
They made it clear they were selling the parking lot and the ball fields. And it was done, and they would not sell one without the other. So it was probably mid-spring.
Okay. Who picked the date for the bond referendum?
You look at District 6?
Yes, who picked the November 6th date?
District
District
6.
6 date. Who certified the referendum? The vote on November 6th?
Certified the vote?
Yes.
I would imagine the Board of Commissioners does that.
So the
The Board of
SD6,
Commissioners does do that, we don't.
so the SD6 commission will certify the vote on November 6th. Is that correct?
The commission, yeah, a majority vote of the Board of Commissioners would say.
But I mean, when I say certified, okay, who read the machines, you know, the voting machine, who got the vote count off the voting machine, who were the people who did that?
Well, and I don't want to be in a position of speaking for the district, but let me just tell you from my observation, because I went to vote, that they had election inspectors there, just like you have election inspectors at a general election. And those election inspectors presumably would read the back of the vote machines.
Is that, the names of those people are public record?
Yes.
Did you know if the Sanitary District 6 ever called a public hearing to discuss the parking lot purchase with the residents?
I believe the public hearing was that day. The public hearing and vote, if you look at the public hearing notice, it calls for public hearing and vote on that day.
On the same day of the referendum, you would have the hearing.
That's required by the Nassau County Civil Divisions Act.
Okay. Did the town sanitary district plan on having an election that was going to have a low turnout? Did they target a low turnout, you know, in their design of this election?
Gotcha, what kind of question is that? They scheduled an election, the voters of the district turn out. There's no planning as to what the turnout's going to be.
Okay.
Passed overwhelmingly, so I think the turnout was pretty darn good.
Yeah, the thing is, if you just do basic math on the number of registered voters in Sanitary District 6 and assume 5%, 4% turnout, based on the number of machines and the number of people that they had there, they would have to handle, my calculations is about 1,200 voters per hour. The question is, even if they carpool together, there wouldn't be parking available for, let's say, 500 cars an hour coming to that one location, because it wasn't a referendum that was held in the local elementary schools like the commissioner districts are held. So it was sort of, from looking at it from objectively, when it's only held for 4 hours in one location, 2 days after a referendum of the general election, the only conclusion I can draw is the intent was to have a low turnout, so the employees who vote would overwhelm any public that shows up.
Mr. Pataki, with all due respect, when you have your opinions, and that's fine, have you expressed them to the commissioners?
This meeting tonight, and I will be going to the meeting tonight. Yes, and I did express it to Mr. Sporazio on the telephone, I did call him. Because to have a referendum of 4 hours, 2 days after a general election, you know, with 130,000 possible registered voters there, you weren't really expecting a large turnout because you couldn't handle it. You couldn't,
I wasn't expecting anything because it had.
I'm not talking about you, I'm not talking about you.
Just
No.
be clear for the record.
For the record, I am not blaming Kate Murray for anything on this.
I want to make sure the stenographer got that.
You want me to repeat it? Okay. Yeah, did the town attorney, did you oversee the referendum? Were you an inspector there?
I was not an inspector there. I was there, I voted, and I stayed for a while to make sure that the vote was, there were election inspectors, the machines were functioning properly, and the reason I did that was because of the fact that the board today had to vote on these bonds, and they can only vote on these bonds if the referendum at District 6 passed. So I wanted to make sure that all of the legalities were being followed. So I guess I was.
Yeah, so a number of people saw you at different times. Were written appraisals performed on the property prior to deciding on this? Were there any written appraisals?
Once again, I only know this because the town of Hempstead was involved in buying the parking fields. But yes, there were appraisals given to the district, appraisals given to the town.
Is that public record? Did Boyle's appraisals?
Yes.
I was told by SD6 officials that no written estimates were given for the cost on the repair of the parking lot. Well, he told me that. Okay, so you want to say I don't know.
Just Mr. Mercacci, these specific questions, getting into the real sort of minutia of the election and then the other information that you're seeking, I'm sure you understand that all that information would be the purview of Sanitary District.
Absolutely, but being that the town of Hempstead is floating the bonds on behalf of the Sanitary District, so if you're going
Because they
to,
can't do it by
I understand that, but if you're borrowing $425,000 to do repairs, which is the estimate I got from Mr. Sporazio, and he did do a good job. They didn't have anything on the calendar initially. After at my request, they did put it on the calendar. They now put the agenda on the calendar prior to the meeting, which I appreciate a lot, so I can see if I want to speak on one of the items before I make a trip to the meeting. So these things are important, and they're all, it's hard to separate one from the election from any of these, because we're voting on an additional $425,000. I'm not sure, the budget, but the bonds is 1.8, but Mr. Sporazio told me is 1.85. Which one is it?
And let me just back up to be clear.
Sure.
There's a written appraisal that was sent to the town of Hempstead for the ball fields, and there's a written appraisal sent to the Sanitary District for the parking lot. The town of Hempstead got its own appraisal to make sure. I think someone told me at District 6 that they also got their own appraisal. So, and that the appraisals match. That's for the purchase of the ball fields.
That's
Okay, so I want to make sure that, and as far as anything being in writing, as far as repairs, I have no knowledge of it.
Okay.
So just
Put
be
this
sure.
in the agenda. Mr. Town Attorney, am I right to say that the town of Hempstead would be required by law to provide this same service to float the bonds for Sanitary District number 2, Sanitary District number 7, any fire district within the town of Hempstead that was engaging in a similar kind of borrowing, since those districts do not have bonding authority in retail?
That's correct, Councilman Santillo.
Yeah, I have no dispute on that, or question on that. So the other thing is we're borrowing an additional $425, and in my conversation with Mr. Sporazio, he didn't even finish the sentence because I got my own estimates as to the cost of paving and fencing and lighting. And before I even finished the sentence, he finished it for me and said, yes, it's too high. And, you know,
You're going to have to bring that up with.
no, I said, well, we're voting on the bond right now, we're not voting at 5:30 tonight. You know, if we're gonna have to vote tomorrow, then I'll defer my questions to 5:30 tonight when I go to the Sanitary District 6 meeting and then discuss it, but right now, we're voting right now. So I think it's important that these get aired right now, because the vote is happening right now, it's not
Once
happening.
again, Mr. Procacci, numbers of that amount under New York State law would have to be bid.
I understand.
So those are really the subjects
But
of bids.
Absolutely, but I've been around the block a little bit. My Sewanaka School District, my Franklin Square School District, both had audits from the town, from the state controller, that showed that they didn't do the proper thing when they bid, and there was no punishment at all. They got stated in the audit, and they didn't show any bid, they only had one bid for jobs. So there seems to be no enforcement from the state coming down. So, when you don't have enforcement, the laws are really, they're written on toilet paper, they're just flushed away, they don't mean anything unless you enforce them.
Mr. Pett, I had a meeting in Lakeview a couple of weeks ago, and at that time, who you said, who the person you spoke to?
Mr. Storacci.
Okay, he came to the meeting and explained everything to the residents who were present. I think there were about 60 or 70 residents there, and so they understood exactly what was going on as far as the purchasing of the property and what the advantages and disadvantages would be. So it's not that, residents didn't know, I know what they do. And also, if you remember, we had the lowest voter turnout in this country since 1934. So I think you could sort of use that as an analogy.
I understand, but my argument with, and where I think where maybe the town, I don't know what enforcement, but at least voiced their concern when an entity under their, I don't know what you want to call it, but what's the proper word, is having a referendum 2 days after a general election, but at least you could get a higher turnout. And, what I did for my people who are on my mailing list, I enlarged the public notice that Sanitary District 6 put in their paper. Enlarged it, I OCR'd it, I had a proofreader, since they shrink it, even the program, sophisticated program I had, couldn't read the text. I manually edited it and double-checked it and even told residents, if you see I made a mistake, please let me know. I sent it to everybody on my list so they would be aware of the election, but a lot of people who I met online there knew about it because of me. And I don't think I should be the town crier. I think that the town should do that. That's it. Once again, on the issue of Sanitary District 6 bond resolution, we talked about, Mr. Ambrosino made an issue, but what kind of question is it? Asking, was an intentional low turnout? Being that Sanitary District 6 knew that they were going to buy this ball field back in April or March or whatever, they could have had the referendum at the local elementary schools in August with their regular election and save the taxpayers' monies, where people would have many different locations near their home. Some people in Elmont, if they were going to go to Cherry Valley Avenue to vote, they would have to travel 4 miles. If they lived in South Elmont, travel to the location.
Welcome, Mr. Big State, your name and address for the record.
Coleridge Road in Rochester. Mr. Wild, I'll ask you a question about Nassau County Civil, this is that, section 216. It's my contention that with respect to the sanitation district, the laws that are established for this sanitary district give it clear definitions and requirements with respect to acquiring property, and much of it has to do with the budget, the preliminary budget that they handed into the town board, and I think I asked you whether you know whether they follow the rules with respect to that.
And I mentioned to you that I would look into that.
Okay, and that's great, and that's wonderful. So therefore, I would request that we table this, since I'm sure you wouldn't want to bond and have the taxpayers go into debt if we found out that the limited rules and regulations with respect to the sanitary district that were established in 1928 weren't followed. Since, it's a lot of money. And it's also for the benefit of the employees only. It's not for the benefit of the taxpayers. So maybe we should table this, take our time, and make sure the rules and regulations have been followed.
The town board today is only authorizing bonds to be.
Well, why do you do that? Let's make sure they've done the right
If in
steps.
fact there's some discrepancies, as you allege, then those bonds would never, they would not be
Okay.
issued.
But since we know that maybe we didn't even look at the law to see if they abided by it, let's just table it, take our time, we have another meeting on the 19th, correct? Is that not the purview of the state bill? No, it's not.
Yes, but in fact, if in fact the statutory legalities were not complied with and the vote itself was illegal or there was something wrong with it, then
Well, I think
the
it's-
bonds just couldn't be, the bonds could not be issued.
Right, and I think it's
The
important.
our bond counsel would then come to us and say that you can't issue these bonds, whether, even if we vote on them today, our bond counsel will tell us that we should not go forward with that.
Furthermore, are you going to turn into something you research? You rely on the bond counsel.
But I don't practice, I just use it to research.
I don't think that. You sound like you know what you're talking about, but
Thank you.
we predicate our vote on the issuance of an opinion, council, nationally recognized bond counsel. They've done the research and there's an opinion as part of your whole offering statement package, and we rely on that opinion. That's the purpose of a bond counsel opinion. Bond counsel are very experienced. Are you a bond lawyer?
Well, let me say this.
No, I'm asking you this
Let me just
question.
say that.
An answer yes or no, you're a bond lawyer.
I'd rather not answer that.
Okay.
I think the question, but
And we rely on their opinions, and then if you know the law, there's a period in which you can raise an objection called the estoppel period, which is the proper form to raise that objection. We are not,
well, let me just say this. That's great to do legalese, but I raised an issue as a taxpayer. It's a large amount of debt for a district that is the highest tax district. And also in addition, New York State Controller has just done an audit on this district. And the audit will be revealed, I believe, today at the meeting. So let's wait, see what the Controller says with respect to the assets and liabilities of this district. Let's take a step back, see whether they follow the rules. And with all due respect, I think I enlightened Mr. Ra about this law, and there could be a possibility that your body attorney dismissed it. Let's take a step back. You have another meeting in another week. Let's raise it then.
You're making allegations in a lot of ifs.
No, it's not allegations. I'm just raising issues, and I think it's a chance to say, come back next week and say, because as we look at these items,
As the town attorney said, this is strictly authorizing. It's not a.
but wait to authorize. One taxpayer comes up in front of all these gentlemen in suits and ties and says, look, I think some little minute law, which by the way, you brought it up with respect to if the voting machines were done the proper way, you brought up the Civil Divisions Act, and I say to you, it's the same sort, I'm giving it back to you. I don't think it was abided by. Take a step back, it's important enough, the debt, to take a step back, to another meeting in a week, and let's do it then. There's no reason to authorize it.
Thank you for your suggestion. Does anybody else wish to be heard on this item?
move the public hearing to be closed, and propose issuance of bonds to be approved.
Supervisor Murray. Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Darcy. Councilman Boothby. Councilman Hughes. Councilman Santino.
Please call the next application.
Application of Ben